The most dangerous thing someone can call you is not selfish, weak, or cruel. It is reliable. Because the moment people learn that you are always the one who stays, fixes, forgives, understands, and carries more than your share, your virtue stops being admired. It becomes expected. At first, they praise you. You're the only one I can count on. Then the praise quietly becomes a contract you never agreed to. You become the mature one, so they can remain reckless. The understanding one, so they never have to change. The strong one, so no one has to notice what their chaos is costing you. And the darkest part? No one has to force you. They only have to threaten the identity you are proud of. And you will force yourself. In this video, you will see how good people become unpaid infrastructure for other people's irresponsibility. And the exact moment virtue becomes a chain. Keep watching. The first warning is usually hidden inside a compliment. At first it feels harmless. You help once, so they ask again. You stay late, so they assume you always will. You forgive quickly, so the next betrayal arrives with less fear. That is how generosity changes form. Repeated often enough, it stops looking like a choice. It becomes precedent. And precedent is dangerous because people begin treating your past kindness as proof of future access. Yesterday, you gave because you wanted to. Today, they expect it because you did before. The favor becomes the standard. The standard becomes a duty. And the first time you refuse, they do not see a boundary. They see a violation. This is the identity invoice, the bill people send you for remaining useful to them. Most people pay it without question. Not because the demand is fair, because saying no feels like betraying who they are. That is where kindness stops being a virtue and becomes a debt. And when you finally resist, they rarely challenge the decision itself. They challenge who you are. I didn't think you were that kind of person. You used to care. This doesn't sound like you. Notice what just happened. They did not argue with your boundary. They put your identity on trial. Now saying no feels bigger than refusing a request. It feels like betraying the person you believe yourself to be. That is the real leverage. They are not threatening the relationship. They are threatening who you are within it. And if you need to remain the kind, loyal, dependable one at any cost, you will surrender before they ever have to demand it. Moral pressure works best when your self-image becomes collateral. The moment you see that, the spell begins to break. You can remain good without performing goodness on command. Comment below. My identity is not collateral. Not as a slogan, as a decision. Crude power gives orders. Refined power makes you anticipate them. No one tells you to apologize. They change the atmosphere, and you apologize to restore it. No one tells you to carry the burden. They become overwhelmed or helpless, and you step in before they even ask. No one tells you to surrender your time. They show disappointment, then let your conscience complete the transaction. This is why the most efficient control feels like choice. The command disappears. The pressure moves inside you. You begin correcting yourself before anyone confronts you, sacrificing before anyone demands it, feeling guilty before anyone accuses you. Machiavelli understood that the strongest ruler is not the one who gives the most orders. It is the one whose expectations become instinct inside other people. That is the darkest form of control, when no one has to force you, because you have learned to punish yourself for refusing. This becomes even more dangerous when you are capable. Competence has a cost most people never saw. The moment you become the person who remembers, repairs, plans, and prevents disaster, everyone around you becomes less careful. At work, you catch the mistake before it reaches the client. At home, you notice what needs to be done before anyone asks. In relationships, you start the difficult conversation, absorb the tension, and keep everything moving. You call it responsibility. But your competence is doing more than solving problems. It is concealing other people's irresponsibility. As long as you keep rescuing the system never has to improve. Why would they become more reliable when your reliability protects them from consequences? That is the trap. The capable person becomes invisible infrastructure beneath everyone else's comfort. And one day you realize they were never simply relying on your strength. They were building their weakness on top of it. And sometimes what looks like weakness is simply a behavior that has learned to work. You give them one task. They ask endless questions. They miss the obvious detail. They create 3 new problems while solving 1. Eventually you say, "Forget it, I'll do it myself." And just like that, their failure becomes your responsibility. This does not always require conscious manipulation. Human behavior repeats whatever removes discomfort. If confusion makes you take over, confusion becomes useful. If poor effort lowers expectations, poor effort becomes protection. If emotional collapse makes others rescue them, collapse becomes leverage. The pattern survives because someone else keeps paying for it. That is strategic helplessness, making responsibility so exhausting to enforce that the capable person eventually surrenders. What looks like incompetence may simply be a behavior that has never been made expensive. And every time you rescue it, you teach it to return. But not every transfer of responsibility looks like failure. The next form of control is quieter. They do not ask you directly. They sigh. They withdraw. They say, "It's fine, I'll handle it." And suddenly, you are solving a problem no one actually gave you. That is the power of ambiguity. A direct request can be questioned, negotiated, or refused. But vague disappointment leaves an empty space, and your conscience rushes in to fill it. You cancel the plan, offer the help, take responsibility for the mood, then call it your choice. It was not a command. It was a trap built from implication. The more responsible you are, the faster you complete the sentence they refused to say aloud. So stop responding to atmosphere. Respond to language. Ask, "What are you directly asking me to do?" Clarity forces hidden expectations into the open, where they can be judged. Write this below. I do not answer unspoken contracts. Because real freedom begins when other people must name the price before you agree to pay it. And when you stop performing the role, the system reacts. At work, you stop fixing every mistake. At home, you stop absorbing every crisis. In relationships, you stop translating moods, smoothing tension, and carrying every difficult conversation alone. Then comes the accusation. You've changed. You don't care anymore. You're making everything harder. But look closer. The chaos did not begin when you stepped back. It was already there. Your effort was simply hiding it. You were not just present. You were regulating the room, preventing consequences, and making other people's failures disappear. So when you withdraw that labor, they may not miss you. They may miss the function you performed. That is why your withdrawal feels like betrayal. A service they received for free has suddenly become unavailable. Sometimes people are not mourning your presence. They are mourning the version of life that required you to have no limits. Beneath that reaction is a deeper trap. It begins when you turn your virtues into promises. I'm always there for people. I never abandon anyone. I always keep my word. They sound noble. But every absolute becomes a map. If you never walk away, others learn how much you will tolerate. If you always forgive, they learn that consequences will come late. If you keep every promise, even after reality changes, an old commitment can be used against your present judgment. The problem is not loyalty. It is guaranteed loyalty, not kindness. Guaranteed kindness, not strength. Strength others assume they can access. A virtue becomes dangerous when people know it will appear on command, regardless of the cost to you. Your values should guide you. They should not reveal how to control you. Keep the virtue. Remove the guarantee. Because anything always available eventually stops being respected and starts being treated as property. This is where the strategy changes. Do not become colder. Become harder to assign. Stop automatically becoming the rescuer, the peacemaker, the understanding one, the person who absorbs the cost. You do not need to destroy your virtues. You need to destroy the assumption that they are guaranteed. Kindness should remain a choice. Help should depend on context. Forgiveness should not automatically restore access. And competence should never be mistaken for obligation. People may know your values. They should not know exactly how much you will sacrifice to prove them. That is real psychological power. Not becoming unreadable. Not becoming cruel. Becoming impossible to place in a role that benefits everyone except you. Keep your values predictable. Keep your access conditional. Because the moment others can no longer assign you a function, they must finally meet you as a person. Now the work becomes practical. When guilt rises, do not ask, "How do I keep them happy?" Ask, "Is this truly my responsibility, or simply the role I was trained to perform?" If the request is unclear, force it into language. What are you directly asking me to do? And if you can solve the problem, do not confuse ability with obligation. You are allowed to let the deadline become uncomfortable. Let the mistake remain visible. Let the person responsible feel its weight, not to punish them, to stop protecting them from reality. And when they say, "But you always did this before," remember, your past generosity is not a permanent contract. A repeated favor is still a favor. History does not turn your effort into public property. Leave this in the comments. My past does not own my future. Write it once. Then remember it whenever someone tries to use who you were to control who you are becoming. You will know the change is real when disappointment no longer sends you back into the old role. They may call you selfish. They may remind you of everything they have done for you. They may go silent, create urgency, or make you responsible for the tension. The old version of you would see their disappointment and ask, "What do I need to fix?" The new version asks, "Did I harm them? Or did their entitlement finally meet a limit?" That question changes everything. Because disappointment is not always proof that you failed someone. Sometimes it is the sound of access being reduced. Sometimes it is what happens when convenience loses its authority. Your strength is not measured by how calmly you say no. It is measured by whether you remain still after they dislike the answer. Freedom begins when someone else's discomfort no longer becomes an emergency inside you. So remember what changes now. When praise begins to sound like obligation, question the contract. When guilt appears, ask whether the responsibility is real or merely assigned. When a request hides inside silence, disappointment, or atmosphere, force it into language. What are you directly asking me to do? When you are capable of fixing the problem, separate ability from duty. Let the mistake remain visible. Let the deadline become uncomfortable. Let the person responsible face the consequence you once absorbed for them. And when they invoke your past, your loyalty, kindness, reliability, do not let history become ownership. Keep your values. Remove the guarantee. Keep your compassion. Make access conditional. You are not here to become colder. You are here to stop being used as infrastructure for everyone else's comfort. The world may call this selfish because it benefited from your self-erasure. Let it. Your goodness is not gone. It has simply returned to its owner. From now on, no compliment assigns you. No disappointment commands you. No old version of you can sign contracts for the person you are becoming. They may know your strength, but they no longer own it.